Biz back. We had a great interview a couple weeks ago with David Raun. David Raun is the president and CEO of a company called One Stop Systems. This is the business of AI. Russ, what's AI? Tell us what AI is.
I think it's artificial intelligence.
That's right.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Because I need some.
Dave, good to have you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
You guys are San Diego based right here.
Yeah, Escondido.
And we are talking to the rest of the world on radio. We're talking to the rest of the country, at least on television. Talk about what you guys do, because we're hearing AI, we're hearing AR, augmented reality.
That's another one.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's all sort of what you guys are calling on-the-fly systems. Talk about what this does.
Yeah, so we're AI, so artificial intelligence at the very edge, which means maybe an autonomous vehicle, maybe a command center, maybe an aircraft. We put very high-end performance computers in there.
Like autopilot?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Let them drive by themselves.
Hurry.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that.
What's interesting is you were on the board of directors of this company in, I think, February of 2020, middle of COVID.
Oh.
You guys said make some changes.
We did.
Was that a happy phone call for you, or one of those? Oh man.
We made a decision to make a change with the CEO, which was a founder.
What about for you taking over as the CEO? Because being president and CEO after being a board member, that was a big responsibility.
Yeah, it was great. I took it over temporarily, and then I liked what I saw and said I'd like to do this long time.
Nice.
Long term.
Take us through exactly what you guys do and what the applications are, and maybe the addressable market a little bit.
Yeah, so what we do is build very high-end computer systems that process the data and take action. And what's different about us, we'll build a system that normally is a big box. We put it in a very small box and deploy it in things like semi-trucks, airplanes, and deal with the harsh environments that are along
You
with
mentioned data. Whose data? Does your system understand all the data that's coming in already and then kind of translate it or whatever? Because data's coming in from
give us an
everywhere.
application.
So let's say a aircraft. An aircraft's in the air, it's taking in all kinds of data. If it's a commercial aircraft, it's mostly about fuel efficiency. In the case of military, it's observing submarines in the water.
Right.
And so what they want to do is collect all that data, store it, process it, and take action on it.
Wow.
And there's no time to go back to some command center. If you think about a time of a crisis, you got to take action now, and they want the AI to help them.
Talk about with respect to that. Let's say 5 years ago, when AI was just scratching the surface. How is life better or different now in these industries that you're helping? One of which is defense. There's other technology industries. There's transportation. What's different and what's better? What makes life bigger, better, faster, stronger, cheaper than it was before?
Well, I mean, AI existed then, but it's just progressed to a point where you have semi-autonomous cars now, where you didn't have a car that couldn't do anything. There are semi-autonomous. I mean, there's autonomous trucks driving in Texas today. They're driving themselves. So those type of applications.
Are we going to see AI in everyday life of Johnny Lunchbucket and Cindy CEO and so on and so forth? I mean, I think we're probably already seeing some of it, right? But is this going to be a way of life for everyone?
Absolutely.
In
everything.
In what way are you thinking? Is it just transportation?
Will I be able to get into the backseat of my car after a last call at a bar and just go, just take me home?
Eventually.
Just take me home.
Or is this
Absolutely.
the mythical Internet of Things we've been hearing about?
Yeah.
Well, the Internet of Things is one aspect of it. Those tend to be lower end. So that's all sending data into the system also. We tend to be in the higher end type systems at the very edge.
And if I'm thinking in terms of, and the only experience we have of this is, we're a military town here in San Diego where we broadcast from, but you see movies and stuff where guys are walking into a looks like a storage container in Las Vegas, and they're spying on someplace and on an enemy in another part of the world, and they're launching satellite imagery or they're dropping. Is that the type of thing we're talking about as well?
Yeah, that's kind of the first layer. The second layer is to do more of that, be automated. So actually that drone is making potentially decisions by itself, which is kind of scary.
Oh, yes, it is.
So the military is an interesting space. Number one priority in the military is to bring AI to every node of the military. And so you're going to see it in everything. Tanks,
And the Space
planes,
Force,
trucks, everything.
the new Space Force has to be
Absolutely.
a big client.
When you guys talk about, on your website, you talk about AI transportables.
Yes.
Is that all of this, or is that another category within this?
No, AI transportables where we're focused, which is all these things that move.
Okay.
Now, it could be a vehicle like we talked about, or it might be a piece of medical equipment or something that moves once in a while.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason is that they have more challenges than a concrete building with air conditioning that can cool these big computers.
Right.
We have to deal with the challenges associated with it.
Are we? How far away are we from? And we hear about autonomous driving cars.
Yeah.
I think the first. I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you where it's going to save us money as consumers is autonomous driving semi-trucks.
Yeah.
Don't you, I mean, that's really the tip of the spear that's going to affect all of us because that changes the transportation model. That's the supply chain that we all been talking about.
Yep.
When that, by the way, and one of the biggest problems with inflation right now, and by the way, it's not just supply chain. There's also a demand problem too because we have a lot of money. We're demanding things, but there's a lack of truck drivers. Okay, this would solve that issue. Had this been in place, how long before we see this as an everyday sort of thing, before we trust this? Because everything that I read and research says that autonomous driving vehicles are not going to crash. And every time they have, it's because there's been a human on the other end of the crash, right?
Yep.
They don't make decisions. How many, are we years away? Are we days away? Or in your opinion?
For the general one that you'll drive, we're years away.
But what about
Probably
what about transporting?
Semis will happen sooner.
Really?
Semis are actually going right now.
Right.
But they still have a human in there, but there's a lot of other ththings that the system can do with that human there. And but it's a
Besides
scary thought.
scream, Siri, turn left.
His name is David Raun. David Raun is the president and CEO of One Stop Systems. Where do you guys go next? What is on the horizon? Because you have this complement of products and services that are what you're calling AI on the fly. What's next, do you think, for you guys anyway?
For us, it's executing.
Okay.
We've got a multi-billion-dollar market, and we've got 60 million of revenue.
Really?
And a $100 million market cap.
Yeah.
So it's execute, focus, focus, focus.
And how much again is that addressable market? I mean, what are we talking about? The addressable market in billions? What do you think?
Yeah, we're estimating a few years out it's 1 to 5 billion. It
My
could be
goodness.
a lot larger. We think today it's 200 million, 300 million, but it's the fastest growing segment of edge computing.
Hey, how do those things see? I mean, when a
Is
truck
it LiDAR? Is it?
It's a combination of LiDAR, radar, a whole bunch of different technologies are being
Okay.
used in these platforms.
sonar?
And all of that is driving a huge amount of data that has to be processed and acted
Right
on.
away.
That's where we play. Yeah.
So, David,
Quickly.
if you look at the cell phone business, right? We all have different cell phones. We all have different carriers, but we're able to communicate because there is a best in practice standard, which is the subject of a lawsuit, by the way, between Apple and Qualcomm and a lot of other places. Is there sort of a best practices amalgamation of data? Because you're going to have this. I mean, you're one company. There's other companies, and by the way, we don't just have transportation. We also have automation. Like it's got to come out of the box, onto the truck, from the truck onto the road. Is there some sort of best practice that's going to amalgamate all of that sort of data coming into one place that allow you to work with the next brand? Philips can work with so and so that can work with One Stop and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have two cars that are autonomous and they can't communicate, it's pointless, right?
Right, exactly.
So there are standards developing right now.
Yeah.
The name escapes me, but absolutely.
As a CEO of a publicly traded company that does this, what do you do in your mind to say we're going to execute better? Because I think a lot of companies say that, but for you, is there specifics that you think would?
The biggest thing is that we have the technology, we have the know-how, and we have a high win rate when we find the opportunities. We're a small guy.
Yeah.
So we've got to get in front of the key players and show them what we have and show them what we can do for them.
Yeah.
So that's what the biggest part of the execution is, and then following up with future products.
We're obviously at the tail end of what we thought was the coronavirus. Obviously, we're going to be with this like the flu for some time. Is this affecting you guys as a business model? Are you guys planning anything different for 2022 as a result of this?
2020 hit us hard. 21 has been better. We grew 18. We're going to grow approximately 18% this year over last year.
Right.
We record profits, record revenues, record cash on hand.
Right.
And we see 22 and 23 being strong years with more accelerated growth in 23.
Exciting stuff. And by the way, is there an environmental positive to this? Because that's the first thing that you hear about when you hear about new technologies.
Oh,
is
yeah.
How's it going to hurt the environment? Are you guys are neutral? I'm assuming because this is zeros and ones, right?
Yeah, we don't impact it, but since most of these things it's going into are electric or will be electric,
Right.
it helps the
We got to figure
environment overall.
a truck that can drive itself might save a little gas because they're just continuing same miles per hour.
Because he doesn't drive like your mother-in-law.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Will you come back?
Yeah.
David Raun, Big Biz Show. More more coming up.